Today, I am doing something different, something that might be controversial, something that will probably make some people angry and others not in agreement. Today, we're rating the Indian government, just facts, data, and honest observation. Disclaimer. Take this analysis for what it is. One person's attempt to make sense of a complex, beautiful, inspiring nation. This is just my perspective as a foreigner observing from the outside. I don't have a vote in Indian elections. I'm simply someone who has watched, researched, and tried to understand what's happening in the world's largest democracy. Imagine standing at the edge of history, watching a nation transform before everyone's eyes. Roads being built at lightning speed, millions receiving homes who never dreamed of solid roofs. A country that once sought respect is now commanding attention on the global stage, but at the same time finds its democracy questioned from time to time. Today, the world watches as the Bharatiya Janata Party completes over a decade in power. 11 years that changed everything. 11 years that left nothing the same. But has India truly changed for the better? Or has it simply traded one set of problems for another? Has it really gained economic infrastructure? Has it really become stronger abroad? The answers might shock everyone, anger some, and inspire others. This is not propaganda. This is a rating. This is my analysis of modern India. So who exactly is this party that commands such power? What do they stand for? And why does their governance spark such passionate debate? The Bharatiya Janata Party is not just another political organization. It is a movement, an ideology, a cultural force that has transformed Indian politics forever. Founded in 1980, emerging from the Janata Party, its roots traced to the RSS, a Hindu nationalist organization from 1925. The party's ideology centers on Hindutva, Hinduness, a political interpretation of Hindu cultural nationalism that seeks to define Indian identity through Hindu values. The BJP evolved from fringe player to India's dominant force, appealing to millions who feel that India's ancient civilization was suppressed, that Hindu interests were sidelined, that the nation needs strong leadership to reclaim its place. The party positions itself as protector of Indian culture, champion of national pride, guardian against appeasement politics. The BJP exists on a spectrum from right-wing nationalism to what critics call far-right Hindu supremacy. Supporters see strength and cultural renaissance. Detractors see exclusion, majoritarianism, and erosion of India's secular fabric. Understanding this duality is crucial to everything that follows. This is the moment where Indian governments are truly tested, not by slogans, not by speeches, but by outcomes on the ground, where election promises either turn into policy or quietly fade from public memory. We're evaluating over a decade of power in India across the forces that shape everyday life and national direction: the Indian economy, governance and bureaucracy, public mood and national confidence, corruption, welfare delivery, internal security, external affairs, and political communication. By the end, you'll have a number, a score, a verdict on over a decade of power. Will it be high enough to justify another term? Low enough to demand change? Or somewhere in the messy middle where most of reality lives? Let's dive in. Economy. India's economic story under this government has real highs and some painful lows that can't be ignored. The achievements are substantial and deserve recognition. India is now the world's fourth largest economy. Growth rates consistently rank among the fastest globally. The PLI scheme brought over 1.6 lakh crore rupees in investments, pushed exports past 5.3 lakh crore rupees, and created over 1 million jobs. Foreign investment nearly doubled compared to the previous 15 years, $667 billion flowing in over a decade. India is also more stable economically. Inflation, which regularly hit double digits before, mostly stays manageable now. Banks, once drowning in bad loans, have cleaned up their books. And UPI, it's genuinely world-class, revolutionizing how Indians transact money with unmatched efficiency and inclusion. But here's where it gets complicated. Youth unemployment tells a harder story. Too many educated young Indians can't find jobs matching their skills. Engineers driving cabs, MBAs delivering food, doctors in call centers. Prosperity feels distant for millions of families. Some promises broke trust badly. Remember 15 lakh rupees in every account from black money? Never happened. Quietly forgotten. That hurt credibility. Demonetization in 2016 was traumatic. Overnight, 86% of currency became invalid. Small businesses crashed. Workers lost wages. People literally died in bank queues. And the result? RBI confirmed 99.3% of banned notes came back. Black money didn't vanish, but the human cost was massive. The rupee's fall, from 60 rupees to over 90 rupees per dollar, quietly eats away at what Indian money can buy. Savings lose value. Imports cost more. Petrol prices stung too. When global oil crashed from $110 to under $50, Indians expected relief. Instead, taxes went up, keeping prices above 100 rupees. Infrastructure gained, household budgets suffered. So yes, India's economy has strengthened in meaningful ways. Growth is real, systems improved, but the gaps between macro success and everyday struggles remain wide and worrying. Final rating, 7 out of 10. Bureaucracy and governance efficiency. This area shows both improvements and new problems that weren't there before. The promise was minimum government, maximum governance. Leaner, smarter, faster. Some of that happened. Files move quicker. Digital systems cut red tape. Certain decisions that used to drag for months now happen in weeks. But there's a flip side. Powers become heavily concentrated at the top. Many ministers seem sidelined. Bureaucrats have grown cautious, focusing more on staying aligned politically than offering independent advice. This government values speed and decisiveness, sometimes bypassing consultation with states, experts, or affected groups. Big policy rollouts show this pattern. Demonetization, farm laws, COVID lockdowns, bold announcements, limited discussion beforehand, then scrambling to fix issues later. India got more decisive governance, but it came with less debate, weaker institutions, and centralization that worries many. Progress in some spots, problems in others. Final score, 6 out of 10. Happiness quotient. Happiness of being an Indian. This score captures how it feels to be Indian right now. The pride, the energy, the sense that something's changed. Many Indians sense a shift that's hard to put into words. There's a new confidence in the air, a feeling that India's no longer sitting quietly in the corner. Indians are speaking up on the world stage. They feel noticed, respected, and proudly represented globally. And symbols matter. This government gets that deeply. For supporters, there's real joy in seeing Indian culture celebrated, the achievements recognized worldwide, shiny new infrastructure rising up, and leaders who project strength. Even those who disagree often admit, India today carries itself differently, more confident, less apologetic about who we are. This emotional connection explains why people keep voting the same way. It's not just politics or propaganda. It touches something genuine. Aspirations that sat quiet for generations finally feel acknowledged and alive. When you feel your country rising, that feeling counts for something real. Final score, 9 out of 10, welfare. This is where the Indian government's performance feels genuinely extraordinary. What stands out is not just the scale, but the intent behind it. Over 40 million homes built under PMAY, with a fresh mandate already underway to add another 20 million to ensure no family is left behind. More than 106 million LPG connections under Ujjwala have transformed daily life for women, freeing them from smoke-filled kitchens and hours of unpaid drudgery. To someone coming from abroad, the social impact of that shift is impossible to miss. Then there is Ayushman Bharat, offering 5 lakh rupees in health coverage to nearly 500 million people, a population larger than most continents. Jan Dhan has brought over 570 million citizens into the formal financial system, with women now owning more than half of these accounts, giving the poorest a bank account, an identity in the economic order, and direct access to state support. Add to this 48 lakh crore rupees transferred via DBT, creating estimated savings of over 3.4 lakh crore rupees by eliminating leakages and middlemen. And one sees a government that has learned how to deliver welfare with speed, scale, and minimal leakage, something many developed countries still struggle to achieve. The COVID period is perhaps the clearest example. When much of the world feared social collapse, free food grains for 800 million people ensured that mass hunger never materialized during one of the strictest lockdowns anywhere. A low to middle income country executing welfare logistics at a level most nations would find daunting. These achievements are not abstract policy successes, they are deeply human. They restore dignity, reduce daily anxiety, and make the presence of the state felt by those who had long been invisible to it. On welfare delivery, India under this government has set a benchmark that few countries, rich or poor, can realistically claim to have matched. Final score, welfare, 10 out of 10. Corruption in India feels different now, less in your face, though questions remain about what's happening behind the scenes. Everyday corruption across India has genuinely dropped. Digital payments, direct bank transfers, and less paperwork mean fewer bribes for basic services. Money reaches Indian citizens more directly now. That's real progress worth celebrating. But the bigger picture gets murkier. Some politicians who face corruption charges under previous governments now hold positions in the current BJP administration. Investigation agencies sometimes seem to focus more on opposition figures. Electoral bonds allowed massive anonymous donations that heavily favored the ruling party, making political funding in India less transparent. So the street-level experience for ordinary Indians has improved noticeably. India's moved from messy, widespread corruption to something more controlled and systematic. Whether that's truly better or just differently problematic depends on your view. The positives are real. The concerns are too. Final score, 6 out of 10. Internal security is one area where the India's shift has been unmistakable. There is a clear sense that the government has chosen decisiveness over drift. And in a country of India's size and complexity, that choice matters. The long-running Naxalite insurgency, once considered an intractable problem, has been steadily pushed back. Districts previously written off as red corridor territory have been reclaimed, coordination between central and state forces has improved, and intelligence-led operations have replaced reactive firefighting. For an outside observer, what stands out is the quiet normalization of areas that were once defined by fear and administrative absence. The red corridor has collapsed from 126 districts to just 11 active ones, with the state aiming for a total elimination of the menace by March 31st, 2026. In 2025 alone, over 310 Naxals were neutralized and nearly 2,000 surrendered, including high-ranking Central Committee members. The government has set a firm deadline of March 31st, 2026 to declare India Naxal-free. Kashmir marks the most consequential intervention. The abrogation of Article 370 radically altered the region's constitutional and security framework. Judged purely through a security lens, the outcomes are hard to ignore. Terror incidents dropped sharply, stone pelting, once a daily spectacle, largely disappeared, and a sense of surface normalcy returned. Investment activity and tourism picked up, signaling confidence in a region long synonymous with instability. For someone who has watched other conflict zones globally, the speed of this transformation is striking. That said, an external observer cannot ignore the trade-offs. Prolonged detentions, communication shutdowns, and constraints on political expression raise legitimate concerns about civil liberties. These measures may deliver short-term stability, but they leave open questions about democratic resilience in the long run. From a security effectiveness standpoint, the results are undeniable. India today appears far more confident in asserting state authority within its borders than it did a decade ago. Final score, 9 out of 10. External affairs. India's rise on the world stage feels inspiring and well-earned. From playing it safe to standing tall, Balakot showed the world India won't back down. New Rafales and defense deals made the nation stronger. India now walks confidently with America, Russia, Europe, and developing nations, without bowing to anyone. Hosting the G20, bringing Africa to the table, sending vaccines worldwide, rescuing people from war zones, India proved it can lead with heart and skill. Our diplomats now speak up fearlessly against double standards. The days of being pushed around feel over. China's still a tough puzzle. Some neighbors stay nervous, but India's never shined brighter globally. Final score, 9 out of 10. Narrative and communication. While media reach is impressive, transparent communication has room to grow. Press conferences are formal, though leaders connect through multiple channels. Dissent faces challenges, yet India's debate culture stays lively. Protests happen frequently, a sign of democratic space. Media navigates pressures but remains diverse. Internet access expands despite occasional restrictions. Democracy thrives on dialogue, and India keeps evolving. Final score, 5 out of 10. The scorecard, economy, 7 out of 10. Bureaucracy and governance efficiency, 5 out of 10. Happiness quotient as an Indian, 9 out of 10. Corruption, 6 out of 10. Welfare, 10 out of 10. Internal security, 9 out of 10. External affairs, 9 out of 10. Narrative and communication, 5 out of 10. Final score is 60 out of 80. This is not a story of simple success or failure. India has always been impossible, and that's its genius. A land where 3 of the world's great religions were born, where Muslims have prayed for a millennium, Christians for centuries, and countless faiths have coexisted since time immemorial. A civilization that absorbed, adapted, and celebrated difference. Not despite its diversity, but because of it. The last decade tested that genius. It delivered roads and rations and raised walls. It built confidence. It connected the remotest villages with digital payments. India is bigger than any government. It always has been. The achievements are real and they matter. Infrastructure rose like never before. Highways cut through mountains. Airports opened in Tier 2 cities. Metro systems spread beyond metros. Rural India received electricity, toilets, cooking gas. The state proved it could execute at scale. Welfare reached the unreachable. Direct benefit transfers eliminated middlemen. Rations reached the poorest without leakage. During COVID, despite catastrophic mismanagement, free grain kept millions alive. Technology became the great equalizer. India stood tall globally. From the surgical strikes to handling border tensions with China, from vaccine diplomacy to leading the global south at the G20, India claimed its place. The world stopped seeing India as a supplicant. It saw a power. These are not small things, these are transformational. For decades, India's potential was a cruel joke. Brilliant people trapped by terrible systems. Corruption ate everything. Files moved only with bribes. The poor stayed poor because the state couldn't reach them. This government broke some of those chains, and millions of Indians, especially the poorest, felt the difference. India's greatest strength has always been its ability to hold contradictions together. Hindus and Muslims and Sikhs and Christians and Jains and Buddhists and atheists, all arguing, all coexisting, all thriving. The moment India reduces itself to one identity, it betrays what made it strong. And here's another uncomfortable question. When billionaires multiply wealth at historic rates while youth unemployment hits record highs, who exactly is this growth for? Here's what makes this moment so critical. The world is watching India, not with pity, but with curiosity and concern. Curiosity because India proves something important. A developing democracy can build infrastructure fast, deliver welfare at scale, and assert itself globally. That matters. Authoritarian regimes claim only strong men can deliver. India showed them wrong, but concern because India also demonstrated something darker. That religious polarization works electorally, that institutions can be bent, that dissent can be crushed without immediate electoral consequences. Both lessons are being studied by democracies hoping to strengthen and autocracies hoping to tighten control. So which lesson will India ultimately prove? The good news? India has been here before. India has faced crises that looked terminal and emerged stronger. The emergency crushed democracy, and democracy roared back. Economic collapse in 1991 led to reforms that unleashed growth. Partition's horror didn't destroy the idea of India. It tested and ultimately vindicated it. Why? Because Indians refuse to accept false choices, the nation doesn't have to choose between development and democracy, between growth and equality, between national pride and social harmony, between being a confident Hindu-majority nation and a secular republic that respects every faith. India can be all of it, because it always has been. The India the nation needs is not some utopian fantasy. It's the India Indians have glimpsed in their best moments, where infrastructure rises and social fabric holds, where welfare reaches the poorest and jobs empower the ambitious, where India stands strong globally and protects minorities at home, where the nation takes pride in its civilizational heritage and honors the constitution that binds it, where wealth is built and dignity is distributed. This is not about one party or one leader. This is about the nation itself. To those who voted BJP, they weren't wrong to want better roads, cleaner villages, stronger borders, efficient governance. They were right. They should keep demanding that. To those who oppose BJP, they weren't wrong to fight for democratic values, minority rights, institutional independence, press freedom. They were right. They should keep fighting. But they must also acknowledge what worked: welfare delivery, infrastructure, global assertion. Opposition to the government shouldn't become opposition to India's progress. To the young Indian frustrated by unemployment, the anger is justified. Young Indians were promised a superpower, but they shouldn't mistake momentary delay for permanent reality. This country has always risen when the young refuse to settle. 60 out of 80 is not failure. India proved it can build. Now it must prove it can heal. It proved it can deliver welfare. It proved it can assert itself abroad. Now it must prove it can protect everyone at home. It proved democracy can coexist with development. Now it must prove development can coexist with justice. Not to despair, not to celebrate blindly, but to demand better from every party, every leader, every institution, every citizen, to insist that infrastructure and harmony are not alternatives, that welfare and jobs must coexist. India has always been a work in progress, argumentative, contradictory, impossible. And that's exactly why it works. So let Indians demand. Let them build. Let them heal. Let them vote with clarity and protest with courage. Because the India they dream of is not a fantasy. It's the India their constitution promised. The India their freedom fighters envisioned. The India that rose from the ashes of partition and declared, "Unity in diversity is not a slogan. It's a survival strategy." The government delivered infrastructure. The government enabled welfare. The government built highways. But only the people can build India. The next chapter belongs to Indians to write. They should make it worthy of this impossible, beautiful, infuriating, magnificent country.